What's going on, Breaking Brown family? Are you watching? Isn't the Trump State of the Union tonight? Are you watching? Is that tonight? Anyway, if you are watching that instead of watching Breaking Brown tonight, I am so disappointed. I want you to know I am so disappointed in you. I'm highly disappointed. I am not pleased. Anyway, I did a lot of stuff today. I did a lot of stuff. There was a lot of software, a lot of stuff going on the computer that had not been because of the Microsoft update last night. There was a lot of stuff on the computer that had not been updated, that needed to be updated. That was like from 2015 and all sorts of stuff. I don't know how it got that way, but what I did, I took it up on myself because I like to show some initiative. I took it up on myself to update the things that I needed to update. So what that means for you all who are consumers of Breaking Brown, what that means is that you may get some stuff that ain't quite right tonight because this is a one-woman operation. I do my stuff. Anyway, I've been here for like 16 hours doing my stuff, just making sure I got everything the way I'm trying to improve as I go and all of that kind of stuff. So let's get the show started. I know we were supposed to do this last night. Please get your libations, whatever your libation is. I'm trying to give everybody time in my slow internet time to come into the fray, and so we can have the conversations that we need to have. So give yourself time, get your libations, get yourself together, Breaking Brown family. We're going to get to it. I'm going to come over here and see if I can log in to the YouTube so I can see what everybody's saying in the chat. So I'm going to try to do that. I'm going to move some of this stuff out of here. But as always, ladies and gentlemen, if you want to support what we have going on right here, if you want to support political education, if you want to support black political education for African Americans, please take the time. You can go to donatebrown.com and make a one-time donation. You can also go to breakingbrown.com. You can donate once, so you can make a cyclical donation where you donate once a month. It can be as low as whatever you select, $1, $2, whatever you want to do. You can also please go to subscribetobrown.com. Subscribe to Brown is just where you kind of add yourself to my newsletter, because just in case anything goes awry, just in case anything goes wrong, I want to be able to contact my people. And I need to be able to see my people and see where they at and talk to them and all this kind of stuff. So I need to be able to talk to the Breaking Brown fam. And the only way I know that I can talk to the Breaking Brown fam is if I get your email address. So please do that. Also, please please subscribe. The newsletter is $2 a month as well. You can get access to the newsletter as well. That would be great too. That's $2, and it's the $2 a month. I give you articles that I find throughout the week that I say, this is really good for political education. This is really good for my Breaking Brown family to know, and that's kind of what I do. And so that's what that is. I want to do that, and I want to give everybody time because I know people didn't know I was on today, so I'm trying to give people a little bit of time to stream in because people come in, we didn't know you got started. Please please subscribe, and do all the stuff that we always talk about on this channel because we got a lot to talk about today. We're going to talk a little bit about, one of the things that I have to do this show is I have to try to, whether or not I'm successful, I have to go back to the Monique thing. And just address some issues. And I try to, if I didn't get it right the first time, what I try to do is juxtapose it in a way that kind of makes sense, right? So I try to juxtapose it in a way that makes sense. So I'm going to bring something else into the conversation. I'm going to bring another situation into the conversation, and then I have something to talk about. I know because I wasn't on last night, we are a day outside now of the Grammys, but we still have to talk about what we have to talk about. So one of the things that I want to talk about right now is kind of, for me, there was no more eye-opening thing for me than kind of what happened to Monique. That was, I mean, when I if you ask me Yvette, how do you understand African Americans and the African American community? I will tell you that Monique showed me so much of like who we are as a community. Monique, like this whole controversy with Monique was an eye opener for me. And it was an eye opener for me in ways that I cannot tell you. In the sense of, and I want to go through the list of things, like I want to go through a list of the criticisms that have been leveled at Monique. And what I want to do is, I love y'all back. We got to talk about how y'all didn't have nothing to say about that little girl at the Grammys who said that she built this country, but y'all got a lot to say about Monique. Monique's people built this country. She's trying to get money from Netflix, and that's not your money. You don't work for Netflix. But I'm getting ahead of myself. What I want to say in terms of Monique, I want to take this step by step. I don't want to scatter around too much. I know I can get going. So there were a few main reactions to what Monique said that showed up on my thread, that showed up in the comments. And what I really want to do is address them point by point by point by point. Before I get to any of the calls, any of that stuff, I want to address them. Now, some people say when we get to the first point of criticism that was raised about Monique or against Monique, one of the things that you hear people say is, well, Yvette, she should have had a better team. Yvette, you're here defending Monique, but she just should have had a better team. Now, let me tell you one thing that has to stop happening in the black community. One of the things that has to stop happening in our community is that everybody has to stop acting like an expert on everything to everyone about every subject. If you get me in the kitchen and you start talking about how to cook the best omelet in the world, I'm not going to tell you that I know how to do that, or that I'm better than you, or that you should just put a little water or a little milk in your egg. I'm not going to tell you that. If you tell me something about how to be the best vegan chef, I'm going to tell you I eat a lot of vegetables. I eat mostly vegetables. I don't eat a lot of meat. But I'm not going to tell you that I know how to do that better than you. I'm not going to tell Monique, as somebody who works in a Waffle House or drives Uber or works at a factory or who is a contract lawyer or whatever, I'm not going to tell her that I know how to negotiate in Hollywood better than her. And I'm certainly not going to tell her that she's being a troublemaker, because let me tell you something. One of the things that you have to understand about politics, and if you don't understand this, then I can tell you that you don't understand black politics. Black politics requires that you be a troublemaker. It's funny. I was reading something the other day about the Black Panthers. And what they did was go around in the communities and find out what the community needed. They didn't go in there assuming that they knew what communities needed. They went in there and found out what the community needed. And they said, okay, this is going to be our charge. We're going to find out what the community needs, and this is going to be our agenda. And so now I am faced with something very peculiar and very particular. Because now my community doesn't really understand what it needs. My community is living out of some sort of imagination. My community has become something of a childlike race of people. We're living out of something that is not us. We're living out of a space that is not us. Now, when you tell me that Monique should have negotiated, the first thing that pops up in my mind is politics. And I understand that as a group of people, not even just black people, as a group of workers in this country, we have been unable to negotiate 15. The fight for 15, we've been unable to negotiate it. We have been unable to get it. We have people who are dying because they don't have medical care. We haven't been able to negotiate anything. We haven't been able to negotiate medical care. We haven't been able to negotiate any kind of health care. The Trump's big bill just got passed, the big tax cuts. We have not been able to negotiate anything. We have not been able to do anything as a collective of millions of people. But you all want one black woman who is Monique to negotiate. And what I'm telling you is based on what? It is based on this belief that if you were there in her position that you would do better. But what is that based on? And why would you want her to be quiet in the face of Netflix telling her, her telling Netflix that, hey, this pay you gave me is not fair? Because Amy Schumer, regardless of what you feel, Amy Schumer got a lot more and then got offered more and then negotiated more. And nobody said anything. Nobody said anything. So some of you have leveled a very specific and particular criticism at me, and I'm going to turn it on its head. Some of you, hold on one second. Some of you have said to me, I got to turn my fan on because y'all done made me hot. Some of you have said to me, well, Yvette, what are you doing fighting for Monique? Why are you fighting for, I thought we were talking about against white capital. Why are you fighting for white capital? And in your immaturity and naivete, you really thought you had a point. You really thought you had me pinned down. But I'm a pro wrestler, baby. You didn't. Because here's the issue. First of all, this is about more than Monique. Let me see if I can find a very, very, very particular. This is a tweet, and I'm gonna put it up big, but this is from Octavia Spencer. And she talks about how a white and better paid co-star got her a better deal. She was a good ally. We talk all this show about how to be a good ally. One of the things and one of the rules about how to be a good ally is to tie your black co-star's pay to your pay. That's a really good ally. Especially if you're a white woman and you want us to be in this white kumbaya space. That's a good ally. But Octavia Spencer said that. So when you see her say that, when you see Wanda Sykes come out, when you see even Tracy Ellis Ross, who we've criticized on this show, when you see all these people come out and say, I'm not getting what I'm owed, why are you still going at Monique? But let me talk about the specific criticism about, oh, Yvette, you're fighting for wealthy black people and you've always criticized them. Let me tell you something. This is not about me fighting for wealthy black. Let me tell you, like I said, this is bigger than Monique. But the second thing I will say is this. I don't think I'm fighting for wealthy black people. I think you're fighting for Netflix. So the question I have for you is, why are you fighting for a multi-billion-dollar corporation? So wait a minute. Let me tell you the truth. I think Monique's body of work, her projects, the Oscar, demand a higher pay than what she got offered. But I'm gonna tell you the truth. If Monique robbed Netflix blind, I wouldn't care. Why would I care? Some of y'all out there acting like y'all work in the Netflix accounting department. And I have to ask, what are you doing? Or like I have to ask, what do you think you're doing? What do you think you're doing? So it's okay. It's okay for you. Monique was on the radio and all these people called in talking about what she should do and what she shouldn't do, or why you didn't go somewhere else. Or why. You all don't even have alternatives. The next time somebody comes at your job, the next time somebody comes to you at your job and treats you racist, you know what I'm going to say? I'm going to say, why don't y'all just go to a different job? Why don't you just go to a different job, right? It's the same thing. Why are you fighting for your position at this job? Why are you begging for crumbs? Why are you doing that for? For what? For what? What's the point? Why don't you negotiate a better salary? Why don't you negotiate? And some of y'all just sound jealous. What? She got paid $500,000? I'd have took it. That's not, listen. I have said this more times than I can count. And I am supposing that I will have to say it again. But moving from a point of desperation, acting from a point of desperation, acting from a place of desperation is problematic because you're talking about $500,000. Now hold on to your hat. Netflix said that they had $8 billion to invest in new content. They had $8 billion to invest in new content. But you're telling me that you don't want your sister Monique to get none of that. Is that what you're telling me? Because I'm just trying to understand. Wait a minute. I'm trying to see what y'all saying here. But wait a minute. You're telling me Netflix has billions, very, 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 very rich white company. You're telling me that they have billions to invest in this kind of content, but y'all don't want Monique to get none. Now, I didn't ever say what you needed to do. I never even called for you to boycott or do anything. I said don't be talking bad about her because she deserves what she got. If she's going to try to leverage her following, and she does have a following and I'm part of it. If she's going to try to leverage that following, don't you stand in her way. That's what I said to you. Do not stand in her way as a black person. But let me get to point number two. We're going to get to point number 2 real quick. And she dealt with that 3 million thing. She dealt with that in a radio interview with the Atlanta Black Star. So you can go and check that out, Lois. She was offered 3 million. Go check that out and you can see how she dealt with that part of the conversation. I'm not going to address it here. But here's the thing. Even if it had been 3 and 19, 3 and 20, 3 and man, come on. But and they offer one to sites $250. So it's just you all have to understand. But let me get to another part. You know, I said jokingly, but it's true. I said jokingly that part of the problem in our community is that, you know, 2 weeks ago, half of everybody was a Bitcoin expert. Everybody was a cryptocurrency expert. Now those people are experts on negotiating with Hollywood. Prior to that, everybody was an expert in the black community on how to flip a house and real estate investing. We got a lot of people who crazy. And nobody wants to own the fact that these people crazy. You're an expert on everything all the time. Johnny come lately on how you would negotiate, what you would have did, how you would have moved. And you ain't never been there. And you ain't never even researched nothing about that. I had somebody come to me on Facebook with a little site where it looks like a little blogger site or something. I don't even know if people still use Blogger. And, you know, at least with me, with Breaking Brown, I understand that BreakingBrown.com ain't going to never be the New Yorker. But he came to me, he said, Yvette, I work in Hollywood. But I go to his site, and I'm not saying this to demean anybody, but this is just the truth. And sometimes you have to hear the truth. And y'all been lying to each other. People been lying to us. You've been lying to these people. This brother couldn't string a sentence together. This movie has everything. These people come together for action. Brother, I don't know who told you. You got to stop just letting people give you business cards and let them tell you what they do and who they are. And you say, okay, that's what you do. And then you laugh at it. No, you're not no movie critic. You're not Roger Ebert. You're not in the movie business. You're just a Negro who goes to see movies. That's fine. Ain't nothing wrong with that. But a Negro who goes to see movies is not the same thing as a Negro who's an expert on the movie business. Understand that these two things are not the same. Now, let me get to another criticism. Another criticism that, and I have another point that I got to scratch here because I got to come back to it. A criticism that I hear a lot is that, well, Yvette, you don't understand. I personally don't like Monique's comedy. And as far as I am concerned, now, if those of you who have been watching me for some time will understand the problem that I have with viewing anything, it does not matter what it is. You will understand the problem that I have, and you will already know. Nobody got to tell you the problem that I have with viewing anything through an individual lens. This is not about your individual taste. I will be very honest with you. It is rare for me to come across any comedian on Netflix that I like for more than I turn you on. I give myself, I'm going to give you 3 minutes to make me laugh. And I will tell you that hardly ever happens. But I don't view it through an individual lens. Although I do find Monique funny. I've always found her funny. I think most of y'all find her funny. But you know what I think you like? I know what you think. I think that you think Monique is the kind of person that you don't want to find funny no more. You see, part of the problem is you don't want to find Monique funny no more. Because Monique is still an expression of African American, a womanhood, African American comedy, what it means to be an African American woman. And she talked black. But you don't want to be black no more. You don't want to be involved in that kind of black culture. When everybody is walking around talking about this different kind of art. I saw Jay-Z yesterday dressed up like Huckleberry Finn. He was standing with P. Diddy and he had on a Huckleberry Finn outfit. And nobody, now if I went out looking like that, y'all got something to say. But he dressed like Huckleberry Finn, nobody's in there. Well, that's art. So you don't want to be around. You don't want to be associated with somebody like Monique, who's just like, I'm a black woman, I'm going to tell it like it is, and I'm going to joke about it like it is. And if I cuss in my routine, I'm going to cuss just like your grandmama, your mama, and your aunties. That's not what you want. But I'm going to tell you what you want. I'm going to tell you what you want. And you can disagree, and it's going to mess you up. But I'm going to tell you what you want. This is what black people want. The majority of us, now everybody in my chat, I ain't talking about you specifically. I'm talking about us as a group. Specifically, most of the people in the Breaking Brown family are not like this. But black people, we would rather live in our aspiration than our reality. Let me say that again. For most of us, we would rather live in our aspiration than our reality. So you know why you didn't have no problem when Tracy Ellis Ross came at you and said that she got paid? You know why and she didn't get paid enough? You know why you just stood with her and you didn't fight her? Because she represents your aspiration. You're never going to fight your aspiration. That's why you're always on Diddy's page talking about, yes, Diddy, black excellence. I see y'all on there clowning and being silly. Like you 13 and you 45. I see it all the time. So what I'm telling you is that what you have in your life right now, that is your reality. And you have to do politics. You can't run from yourself. Politics is not your aspiration. Politics is your reality. What do you need right now for yourself as a descendant of these slaves? I know people like, Yvette, don't call them enslaved people. I ain't doing that. Because it needs to sound just as brutal as it was. It needs to sound, and that's my take. You can have a different take, and that's fine. I don't require that you necessarily agree with every word, but that's just what it is for me. That's what it is. I'm not requiring that it be any kind of way for you, but I'm telling you that this Monique thing really brought it home for me. What it really brought it home for me was, and I said one time that we need collective therapy, but Antonio Moore made it more specific in a way that really matters. We need lineage therapy. We got a lot of people running around talking about, well, I don't want to hear anybody with the potty mouth. You live in a black family. And what you really want for yourself, if you are honest with yourself, what you really want for yourself is, you don't want to be black. You want to be the only black family in a white neighborhood. That's what you want. You want to run away. You want to run away. And I think what happens is Monique reminds you of who you are and where you came from and your wealth positionality and everybody you knew and everybody you trying to run away from, and you can't take it. That's not Monique's problem, no. That's your problem. Because you're not Tracy Ellis Ross. You're not even her in real life, much less her in Blackish. That's not who you are. That's a projection. You're not wealthy. You're not wealthy. And the only wealth that we have gotten as African Americans has come through collective politics. And a lot of the people that's come through were not Tracy Ellis Ross. They didn't have Jewish fathers and an R&B icon mama. They were like Monique. And that's why you don't like her. So be honest to why you don't like her. Be honest and say, Yvette, I don't want to be black no more. And I don't want to associate with people who are black like she's black. I don't want to be a part of that no more. And if I can run away from you and the rest of these Negroes, I'm going to do it. Be honest about it, and I'll just write you off and never talk to you again. But that's fine. We don't got to talk. We don't have to talk. I think that's something we're going to have to learn. That we don't have to talk to everybody about everything. And the thing people say, well, this is like the third thing. Well, Yvette, if she had done... See, the thing is, Yvette, Monique is such a troublemaker. Monique is such a troublemaker. Name me one person in this country, in the history, I don't care whether you're talking about Ella Baker, Fannie Lou Hamer, Dr. King, Malcolm X. Name me anybody who has been anything and has gotten black people or themselves anything without causing trouble. See, you can get yourself individual wealth without causing trouble and by playing this game. But tell me how you are going to get your community free, or at least in Monique's case, the black female entertainers who are going to come after her and the female entertainers who are around her. How can you get all of them more money without being there? White women out here getting this Me Too money. And you basically, you didn't show me one time where y'all rose up against white women who were trying to get this Me Too money. Y'all did not rise up. Any white woman could say anything about she was touched or whatever. Y'all, I don't care. Maybe she was. I don't know. But then when Monique says something, you got a problem. You got a problem with Monique because you got a problem with black people. I don't hear you saying nothing about all these white women who trying to get Me Too money. I brought it the last time, Aziz Ansari, whatever his little name was. Some white woman tried to come at him because she had a bad date. She tried to come at him and she said, I went back to his apartment and I was flirting with him all night. But then I went back there and I didn't want to be there no more. And I just And it was all this stuff. If you have rose up against white women the way you rising up against Monique, then I could say, well, okay, maybe there's something to this. Maybe there's something to this. And somebody on the chat, I look at the chat and people so crazy on the chat. Well, we can't keep begging for their stuff. Whose stuff? Whose stuff are you talking about? This is wealth. It's in the hands of white people. What you gonna do? And why don't you tell me what job you going to tomorrow? And who own it? I know you don't work for yourself. Stop lying to me. If people don't stop lying to me about these work for yourself, 90% of black people work for corporations. I mean, like the overwhelming majority of black people work for corporations. That's who we work for. That's who most people work for, white or black. Stop lying to me about you work for yourself. I would just start tearing business cards up when people hand them to me. You don't work for yourself. You might have, most black people do not work for themselves. And those who do are normally not employing other black people. They're self-employed, which means their only employee is themselves. One of the things that has to stop happening is that we have got to stop. We got to stop lying. Like, none of this works if we don't stop lying. Let me say this. You can't keep worrying about Netflix. You don't work for Netflix. That's not what you do, boo. That's not what you do for a living. You don't work for Netflix. And the one thing we saw Jemele Hill. Did y'all see? I'm gonna pivot. Did y'all see Jemele Hill? And this kind of points to why Monique is so important. And everything that comes about with that. Let me put this up on the screen while I'm talking about it. Now understand all this in the context of what I'm putting up right now. This is about how ESPN, you all know, I'm gonna put up what happened to Jemele Hill too, but I like to provide context for whatever I do. ESPN reportedly plans to dismiss. Now this was a while back. This was a while back. I think this was November or something. ESPN reportedly plans to dismiss more than 100 employees in the latest batch, right? The latest batch of layoffs. Okay? Now, what happened right there? That's some weird stuff. Hold on one second. Okay. But anyway, that's what happened with that. Now we're going to go. Let's move. Because that's what we do. Now, this is what Jemele Hill said that got her in a lot of trouble. She said, Donald Trump is a white supremacist who has largely surrounded himself with other white supremacists. Now, those of you who were paying attention, remember what she did and what she said. Right? Okay. Now Jemele Hill is leaving. Well, ladies and gentlemen, she is leaving SportsCenter. She's leaving SportsCenter. Now, she is allegedly going. She's going to where, ladies and gentlemen? She's allegedly going to Undefeated or whatever to write. Now, the thing is that I know, and I think a lot of you know, there ain't really no money in blogs no more. I know people be trying to sell you classes and stuff about making money in blogging, but the algorithm changed and Facebook changed, and unless you're getting millions on top of millions of hits, there is no money there. And that was a great article about all of the behind-the-scenes messiness that was going on at Undefeated, because the people, the remember the little guy that y'all don't like, who I won't use the word that y'all use for him, he was supposed to be kind of overseeing that. But she says she's leaving. Listen, ladies and gentlemen, I'm gonna say something. You know, you didn't need ESPN to tell me that she may have been driven out, but we have created this situation where black people are not allowed to tell the truth about, or are not courageous enough to tell the truth about their lives. I will tell you that I suspect Jemele Hill, even though she said differently, I suspect, ladies and gentlemen, I suspect that this was not a lateral move for her. Now, here's what she said. You can read it on your own time. I will not read it here. But she said something to the effect of, y'all don't listen, it was my decision, blah, 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 blah. I don't buy it. But understand one thing, the opposite of a person who owns their stuff is a troublemaker. You got to choose. It's time to choose. Either you're going to be a troublemaker or you're going to be a person who lies about, I'm going back to blogging because I wanted to. Instead of saying, like, this company made a decision months ago, really. You weren't in the room when you said that stuff. They made a decision to get rid of you. They made a decision, how we going to do this, how we going to unfold it. Because did it not occur to you they getting rid of you right before the biggest sporting events in America? They getting rid of you right before the Super Bowl, boo? They getting rid of you right before the end? No, this was always planned. Like, my thing is with us, how we can't never see the tea leaves. Tea leaves everywhere that this person got pushed out. But for whatever reason, for reasons that I can't seem to understand, we don't seem to get it. We don't seem to understand how anything works. Now, here's what I want to get to, because I want to get to this and I want to make it clear. I want to make it plain. I don't want nobody to say they misunderstood me and I didn't understand what you said, Yvette, and maybe I thought you said this. Listen. Y'all are all on Monique's head right now about getting more money from a white company. Don't you? I mean, you should just really feel stupid off of that. I just being on her. But let me just and being Oscar, having won an Oscar. Monique's been with us since Queens of Comedy, the Parkers. She is the most decorated, whether you like it or not. And I don't really care whether you like it though. But that's just what it is. So, you all have a problem with her getting what she's owed. You going to bat for Netflix. Okay. Well, here's what I want to say. Here's what I'm trying to understand. Why didn't y'all have a problem with this child coming on to the Grammys and saying that this country was built by dreamers for dreamers? I don't understand how you all can spend your energy. Monique was on a call-in show. A bunch of black people called in to tell her how she was wrong. And even the host, I'll call you out too. I don't care. But you let this person come at the Grammys and say this country was built by dreamers. Our dreams were bigger than our fears. How do you allow that to happen? Hold on, I'm not finished. Now, before I get into that conversation, let me just, because this little artist, what was the child's name, Lord? What was the child's name? Camila Cabello. Okay, understand one thing. She is, the first thing you have to understand about her, she is Cuban and Mexican. Daddy Mexican, mama Cuban. You have to understand, and I don't want anybody to misconstrue me and believe that I'm saying that immigrants in this country have not made a contribution. But who built this country and who made a contribution are two very different conversations. Listen, look at this. This is from the New York Times. More Hispanic declaring themselves as white. Ladies and gentlemen, more Hispanics declaring themselves as white. There's a little game being played. By not all, I'm not saying we don't have Cuban and Mexican allies. I had a very great conversation with somebody not too long ago about the history in Cuba and like everything Fidel did, good and wrong in terms of their country. I'm not saying that. I'm saying that like this girl is playing a game. She gonna be white. She gonna cross over, but she's gonna use this dreamer, I'm just like you, and everybody in that audience clapped. It wasn't even a big deal to y'all that she did what she did. Let me just point this out. While we're talking about this, I want to point something else out, because I like to be specific. I don't like to just get on here and say stuff. But one of the things that you also have to understand, I can never remember the child's name. Camilla, what is it? Child. I don't know the child's name. But one of the things that we have to, that was a great good article about your girl, Camila Cabello. And the article about Camila Cabello says, let's pause Camila Cabello's new album and look at her racist past. Oh, Camila, were you racist? Listen, allegedly, there are all sorts of, ladies and gentlemen, articles and different things showing her dropping the N-word and all kind of stuff. But she can get before you and says this country was built for dreamers, by dreamers, and y'all don't say nothing. Monique says, as you can see Monique as a member of your family. Everybody knows somebody like Monique in their family, or friends, or the beauty salon or somewhere. You recognize Monique in your culture. You recognize Monique in your culture in a way that you do not recognize a lot of other people. In a way that you do not recognize even a lot of other black people. You recognize Monique in your culture. But you give Monique hell. But you don't say anything about Tracy Silverstein. And that's her name. It's not Tracy Ellis Ross. Her God-given name is Tracy Ellis Silverstein after her Jewish father. So wait a minute. She gets a pass. And your girl Camila Cabello gets a pass, even though she has allegedly said racist things. She gets a pass, but Monique don't get a pass. Your ex-president get a pass, even though he said this country was a country of immigrants, and we have never been. What he says, like enslaved people were brought here involuntarily. And this country of immigrants is just a way. How do Native Americans feel about this stuff, a country of immigrants? It just brownwashes everything. And that's why I'm telling you that for you to think that it's going to be necessarily good for you, that the browning of America is going to be necessarily good for African Americans, you are, that is a joke. Because what's happening is these people, a lot of these people, too many are going to come here and say, listen, I don't know what these other people owed you, but I don't owe you nothing. I don't owe you nothing. Here's another thing from our little friend. What's her? Kabila Camelo. We got her. They were on her head. Pictures of her saying racist thing, using the N-word. All that stuff. But y'all didn't have no problem with her, right? Because you know why? We never asked who you. Who you and why you talking? Who you? Who are you? Who are you? If you investigate people, then a lot of times you see the game. If you want to be able to see game, if you want to be able to look and be like, oh, that's game. They running game on me and my community. All you got to do most of the time is Google them and do a little research. And the game they playing come right up. Ain't no misunderstanding. You can see the game they playing. But see, we don't see the game they playing because we don't look hard enough. We don't look hard enough and say, oh, well, she looks brown, I guess. And that's just what it is. Well, here's another thing. You said, one of her bandmates, talking about Miss Kabila Camelo, a.k.a. the one who called her bandmates the N-word with the hard R and never apologized. That's who y'all clap for at the Grammys. And I want to give you a little bit of her history. Before I move on and talk about a little bit about how we built this country, I want to give you a little bit of her history. Now, she says I came with nothing. That's what you hear a lot of times. You hear people say, well, I came with nothing. Understand one thing. When she came over here, her father came from Mexico. From what they say, he didn't have much. Her mother was an architect, right? The house they stayed in was from their godparents, from her godmother or something like that. She came over here with a certain infrastructure already set in and wired in. That's what she came over here with. Now, her mother was an architect, but had to work in Marshalls. We done had 10, 12 of them jobs. But guess what happened to her mama? Her mama, who was Cuban, ran into two other Cubans who worked at an architecture firm. And they brought her in as an architect. Understand the webbing and netting and community that's involved in that. And then her father eventually came over and started a construction company that he named after his daughters or whatever. This is the person that's telling you that she's just like you. Understand that this is the person that's saying this country was built for dreamers. And she's saying what I have. You can go and just read some of her comments. That what I have is because my people sought to dream. You should not want anyone here who does not understand specifically and respect the African American experience. She came here. Like, we've been here forever trying to get stuff. You came here and got it. And I'm not saying anything, but I'm saying you don't even understand America to believe and to think that the reason we don't have it is because we don't want it. And understand that she came post-civil rights. So you know what that means? The fact that she came after civil rights, that means we fought for it. We fought for her to even be able to come. She gets to come over here and eat. And then say something as disrespectful as, well, the country was built for dreamers by dreamers. So what you get again, I'm going to say this again. I'm going to say this so I can't say it no more. What keeps happening to us as African Americans is we pay the cost. We pay the cost. We bear the burden. We were the ones who fought for all of this. And other people get to come and benefit and then talk about how it's theirs. So not only did we bear the cost, you come benefit and be said the country was built for me, for people, by me, for people like me. It's disrespectful. And not only disrespectful, we're talking about politics, we're talking about material benefits. You should not have been allowed on that stage if what I have read about the words that you are using and have used about that if you use the N word like that, I don't care if you have deleted your Twitter or deleted whatever page you had. You should not have been on that Grammy stage. And even if you had been there, the black people in the audience should have sat there like this. There should have been a turning away. Y'all don't have no problem turning away from Monique. So let me just get to the crux of the issue though. Because what we're really talking about is when we really look at this, when you say, I want to look at this and I want to understand this, you know, when you say, I want to understand this better, what I want you to understand is that this girl's father did not have a father who was a felon. She did not have a father who got caught up in mass incarceration. She doesn't understand or care about the fact that she doesn't have a mother who got evicted because the daddy was in jail, because everybody got, all these black men, 10,000 per 100,000 got put in jail. And because these black men got put in jail and could not do anything and could not have future, that made her have a future. Understand that taking black men off the board meant that there was more stuff on the board for other communities to come and take. You don't hear me. And because you don't know that, and because you don't hear me, that's why you were on stage cheering her, but you were mad at Monique. You need therapy. You need help. If you're one of the people who was telling Monique that she don't need that money and that she should leave Netflix, a multi-billion-dollar corporation, alone. You were telling her she don't need that money, but you were cheering for this girl whose father started a construction company. What could your father have done if he had not been taken off the board? What could your mother have done in terms of being an architect or whatever if there had not been or being a nurse if there had not been nurses imported into this country from other Caribbean and Haitian countries? What could your family have done? Taking us off the board is what left space for them. So we not only got taken off the board, we did all the work, and then we got taken off the board and left with nothing. And you get a space on the Grammys to talk about your issue, and we don't get anything. Leave me alone with that. You don't understand American history. You don't understand the African American tradition in this country if you don't understand that. And let me just, I want to put up something. If you can find this podcast, I'm gonna put the video up now. It's the New Books Network, and I brought this up before. The Half That's Never Been Told. I brought this book up before a number of times while I'm talking, and you should get the book. People always talk about the Breaking Brown book list. You should get the book, and you should listen to the book, and you should understand. You should understand, and I'm trying to say this, and I'm trying to say it slow. You should understand what this means in terms of, and let me just, because I want to make sure I do this right. You should understand what this means in terms of African American history, in terms of who we are, and in terms of our contribution to this country. I mean, I don't know what else to say. I don't know what else to really say about it. But I'm trying to preface this because what he talks about in this clip, he talks about not only, see, the thing that we always get wrong, this is not just about black people or African slaves building the country in the sense of, well, we worked and we put down the bricks and we put down the mortar. No, this is about us providing the only agricultural thing that we could really sell, or people could really sell before the industrial revolution, right? Cotton was our thing. And what made this country stick together as a cohesive country was cotton. And what made cotton so profitable to build this country and to build this elite class was free labor, and that was African slaves. So I'm gonna play this, and I want you to listen to it, and we'll come back and we'll talk about this first clip.
Actually, look at the the way slavery worked, and then so you look at the way it worked, and then you also look at its, let's say, contribution to broader capitalist development. You see that it is deeply, deeply capitalist in a lot of important ways. So one of the things I discovered in the first book, it's sort of a small part of the first book, and I couldn't actually get people to pay much attention to this at the time, but later, for reasons I'll explain, they got much more interested. One of the things I realized was that, first of all, expanding slavery, which was a process that continued from the 1990s right up until 1860, and the desire to expand slavery was actually the proximate cause of the Civil War. Expanding slavery was expensive for the planters, or as I often call them, entrepreneurs who wanted to do it. A young enslaved man cost generally around $1,000, which in terms of the amount of wage labor that could buy you, was something along the order of $220,000, $250,000 in 2014 dollars. So this is a very expensive investment, about the same as a house in many parts of the U.S. today. So how did slave owners do this? Well, they already had property, and so they had collateral, but they needed a cash flow in order to actually, and often a cash flow that was bigger than what they were getting from their crops, in order to make that big capital investment. And it turns out that what they did was they went to big urban centers like London and Amsterdam and Hamburg and New York, Boston to get that money. And in fact, in the 1830s, what they got really good at was creating innovative new financial products that are really very similar to some of the things that have been done on Wall Street since the 1980s. Everything old comes new again. They, in fact, created a process in which they essentially securitized enslaved people and sold bonds on those worldwide financial markets to raise money, which then they pumped back into their own accounts to buy more slaves. In return, the people who bought the bonds got essentially a slice of the income from individual slaves. Now, people weren't interested, historians were not interested in hearing about this in the 1990s and early 2000s, but after very similar operation, except done with houses instead of slaves, imploded and dragged down the whole world economy with it in 2008, suddenly people were much more interested in this. So it turns out that slavery was financially deeply embedded in all of the circuits of credit that flowed around the Western world in the early 1800s. And they were embedded in ways that are recognizably identical in many of its key points to the way that credit works in today's capitalist economy. It didn't flow as quickly, information didn't flow as quickly, but the processes were very similar. Enslavers were constantly borrowing in order to expand their operations. And on the other hand, on the production side, we might think that what was going on in the cotton fields was very different from what we see as the essential capitalist production function of wage labor. That's what Karl Marx said was the be-all and end-all of capitalist production. And people have tended to follow that as a kind of dogma. But what's significant about wage labor for not just for Marx, but for Adam Smith and people at capitalism, what's significant about wage labor systems is that they build in incentives for innovation, which continually produces more product with the same amount of labor, thus expanding the amount of goods that are available. And this breaks us out of the old bottlenecks of old agricultural societies, which changed very, very slowly and usually could not accumulate too much to protect societies from starvation, much less from falling into a sort of stasis where they weren't expanding, weren't changing technologically. So what's interesting is that what actually happens as enslavers expand their cotton operations and as they move large numbers of slaves into places like Mississippi and Alabama, is that they have incentives to produce more cotton all the time. The world market for cotton is growing. because of the Industrial Revolution that's taking place in Britain. And all they have to do is to figure out how to make more cotton. They have two problems. The first is one of processing. It's hard to get the seeds out of cotton fibers. We know all about the cotton gin. We know that that's what happened. They have a mechanical solution. But picking is the other bottleneck. And in 1800, most people could pick at most about 45 pounds a day. Picking is really hard, and no mechanical solution was invented until the 1930s. What slave owners figure out to do is to create incentives for cotton picking. And this isn't by paying more, this is by measuring more and whipping more. So they set individual incentives, and you can see this very, very clearly in the film 12 Years a Slave, actually.
Yes, that's right.
Yeah. In fact, Steve McQueen and the 12 Years a Slave crew do a better job of depicting that than virtually any historian. So everybody has an individual quota. If they don't make the quota, if their bag is weighed at the end of the day and they haven't made the quota, they're whipped. And sometimes it's very explicitly a kind of very capitalist accounting. Okay, you're 5 pounds short. An enslaver told Israel Campbell when he was learning how to pick cotton in Mississippi in the late 1820s, you're 5 pounds short, and so you owe me a debt, and I'm going to exact repayment in the form of 5 lashes. 1 pound short, 1 more lash. And these were pretty brutal whips that were being used. So people learn how to pick to their quota. And what enslavers then do is raise the quota. And over time, primarily I would argue because of this process of measuring and then raising of the quota, what happens is that enslaved people pick faster, so that by 1860, the average enslaved person is picking about 3 or 4 times.
The average enslaved person by that time is picking like 3 or 4 times what the enslaved person was picking before that. So understand as I bring this out from what I'm saying, understand a couple of things. When he talks about this country expanding, what he basically said is the engine for the expansion of the United States of America was slaves picking cotton. Understand what he says is that cotton and the free labor and the whipping of slaves, because you give slaves a quota and that makes them pick 3 to 4 times more than they would normally pick. Understand that he is saying to you that slavery, that free labor and the picking of cotton, he said a lot of countries get caught up in this stasis and they can't expand and they have problems. He said this did not happen in America because of slaves. And he talked about the securitization. So these people who own slaves, he doesn't call them planters, he calls them entrepreneurs, because that's what they are. They all use us. He said they decided, they basically came in and they were able to make money off of the slave. Like it wasn't just a thing. I can't stress enough what we built in this country. And I want you to bear with me. I want to say one other thing. We are fighting for... Now listen to this. I want you to stop and just listen to this. Stop what you're doing. Put your libation down for 1 second. I want to read something to you. This is from the Ta-Nehisi Coates piece from the Atlantic.com about reparations. He says in 1860, slaves as an asset were worth more than all of America's manufacturing, all of the railroads, all of the productive capacity of the United States put together. This is what Yale historian David W. Blythe has noted. Slaves were the single largest asset by far, financial asset, property in the entire American economy. That's in the case for reparations. How are you not being offended when this woman comes to you and tells you that this country was built for dreamers by dreamers? How do you know this information about how the commodity, we were worth more than the railroads, manufacturing, productive capacity, everything. We built this country. We were the wealth of this country. We were our bodies. Our ancestors' bodies were. They were the wealth of this country. How are you not offended? How did you clap for that? How did you let that go? Understand one thing. We're honestly fighting for equality in this country during a time when, if you honestly just take a step back and you look at what we're owed, you will see, honestly, black people should be rich. We're fighting for equality when we should be rich. How are we not rich and our ancestors built this country? How? And capitalism. So listen, I want to play one more clip for you. I just want to drive it home. Please just bear with me, and then we're about to get ready and go to the calls.
How did the Haitian Revolution contribute to this sort of a new frontier for slavery in the southwestern United States?
Well, first of all, in a very mechanical sense, I mean, in a very clear way, what it does is it forces Napoleon to sell the Louisiana Territory to the United States, and this allows the U.S. to expand in ways that simply wouldn't have been possible if it didn't control the Mississippi River and its outlet. Napoleon had dreams of a American empire. That's quite clear. He invested tens of thousands of troops in reconquering Saint-Domingue from the rebels who had come to control it by the 1790s. And it's clear that he wanted to reinstitute slavery there, but he fails in doing so because of the resistance of the Haitian people. And so he's forced to abandon his plans and do something that he had been previously unwilling to do, which is sell New Orleans and the Louisiana Territory. So that's absolutely necessary for the extension of this continental kind of slavery. But the Haitian Revolution also convinces European powers and well to abandon the international slave trade, to make it illegal and make its banning be a kind of a sign of civilized nationhood. So U.S. bans it and Britain bans it, and then Britain begins to put a lot of pressure on other nations, Spain and Portugal and so on, to ban it.
Understand one thing that we've always heard about, you hear Haitians say, and there's a lot of history there. Well, we saved you guys. And then understand that all this stuff is a double-edged sword that we don't really pay attention to. I'm going to try to get into that in tomorrow night's show. But what it shows is that, that's part of why the whole Haitian Revolution is part of why we expanded into Louisiana. Because Napoleon had to sell that land, so there was space to expand. It's not saying that we're not good and bad, but it's a double-edged sword. But that's what you get. And see, the thing is, we're not rich. We should be rich, but Monique can't even ask to be paid for more. And y'all jump down her throat, and this girl can come on and say all kind of ahistorical stuff. She don't even got to be right. She's as dumb as a bag of rocks. And I can tell you that. She's as dumb as a bag of rocks. She don't know history. Did you ever go to Pop Sugar and read that thing she wrote? I think she's in Fifth Harmony or something. It's idiotic. It's like it was written by an 8th grader. But y'all let her get up on stage and disrespect us to that degree. Now I'm getting ready. Now I'm at an hour, so I'm about to get ready to go to the calls. Give me 3 minutes. Set the phones up, and we'll be back. Brown family, we about to go to the calls. Let's see. Try to get everything set up. I try to do everything right for y'all. Ooh. Show is tiring sometimes. Okay. I'm going to try to make your comments concise as possible. I would appreciate it. Watch the microphone keep trying to fall. Anyway, I'm going to area code 502. 502, get ready. I'm coming to you in just 1 second. 502. I want you to tell me what's your name and where you're calling from.
Hey.
Hey, what's going on?
This Jay. I'm calling from Kentucky, but I'm from Memphis. But I've been watching your show, and I really appreciate what you do, and you really is really out there going hard for real. You know what I'm saying? Like, you really out there. Like, I think you in Cali, you like right there where all the little BS and everything going on. You really going hard. I salute you for that.
I appreciate it.
That's what I really want to say. And I've been speaking of what's been going on with all of the racism and stuff. Like, I'm young. I'm really from the hood, but like, I like paying attention to politics, and I like learning new things and learning new words. You always speak with a high vocabulary, and you always be saying words and stuff, and I be looking them up and everything. But I've been dealing with racism quite a few times here lately. The latest thing that happened where I was trying to do something, I don't know if it was racism, but I feel like, you know, they don't, you know how like media and all that, they don't like real niggas. And when I say real nigga, I'm not talking about like smoking weed and fucking hoes. I'm talking about like a real nigga that like give a fuck about his community. But
I appreciate your call, brother. I know they don't. I appreciate you. I appreciate you calling in, and I appreciate the support and everything that the young people give. I do appreciate you. I love y'all. I don't have a whole lot of time today, but but I love y'all, and I understand. I understand what you're saying. I'm going right now to caller 623. 623. I'm coming to you. What's your name? Where you calling from?
Hi, Yvette. Hi, Breaking Brown family. My name is Kiana. I'm calling from 623. Yvette, I just want to say thank you so much for everything you do.
Thank you.
Everything that I'm seeing right now with Monique, I'm like, we need to stand with her as Black people. Where are we at?
Yeah.
We need to stand with her. She have a show coming up. Stand in line. We need to support her now. I'm trying to find out when the next show is and where it's at. As far as that, Camilo.
You know I'm gonna show up. If y'all, what did you say? You said she got a new show.
Everybody in the room Black should have been sitting down, or they should have been standing up and saying, "No, we Black people built this country, and y'all dreaming for thinking that y'all." Like, where's the respect at? Where's the, you know, where's the people at that clown of Monique in the chat, or saying she don't deserve her money, but you up here let somebody who's not a Black person or a descendant of slave say that they built this country? We need to stand with Monique and support her.
Yeah.
That's what we need to do.
Thank you, sister. And let me tell you what. Find out what she got a new thing. You said she got a new tour. She come right here. I will be there. She got a new
stand-up live theater play coming up.
I'll be there. Everybody gotta let me know. I'm gonna support that. If y'all wanna catch a girl in Atlanta, let me know where that's gonna be at. I'll be there. Appreciate you. I appreciate you. Let me just say something.
Let me know too, because I'm gonna be looking out. I want to go to the stand-up live and the whole Breaking Brown family show up.
Let me know. I show up and I act up. Let me know. I'll be there. And if she come to Atlanta, I know this is
right. I seen it on Twitter. It's on your Twitter page. It was online today.
Send that to editor@breakingbrown.com.
And I'll follow Monique.
You know what? We'll make that a editor. We make that a Breaking Brown event. She come to Atlanta. We make that a Breaking Brown event.
Absolutely.
We have dinner. Yeah, we have dinner, and then we'll go watch the Monique show. God doggone it. Thank you, Carla. I appreciate you. I appreciate you. Let me just say one thing. I dropped the last caller because I needed it to be concise, but I ain't got no problem with that brother. What I want to say to you is that a lot of y'all will be out marching for Black Lives Matter, but y'all won't even talk to that brother. Like, he don't talk like you talk or whatever. Like, you understand what people going through here. Like, it's not about that. I don't not talk. I talk because I need to keep it. Don't talk. I need to keep it moving. But I think you will find so many people who say they have ran into me at the grocery store, at the gas station, of all kinds, men, women. I talk to everybody. Some of y'all want to be elitists and black bourgeoisie, but you don't want to talk to that brother. If I meet that brother outside of trying to keep this show moving, that's why I've been cutting people off left and right. It is, if I meet you, I'm going to talk to you. Because I'm really about Black Lives Matter, and just not just black bougie lives, not black just tribal lives, all black lives. So I just want to put that out there. Let me go to 313. I'm coming to you now. I need your name and where you calling from. 313?
Hey, Yvette, this is Nate from Detroit.
Hey, what's going on, man?
Hey, nothing much. Hey, you know what? This Monique stuff, it kind of bothers me a lot more than I thought it would. Because I do a lot of YouTube videos, and just the comments. And you had said something in one of your videos before where you had said Monique is basically a reflection of the black community. And I think that's very true. Because when we see Monique, we don't want to face the reality of our position here in this country. She represents being underpaid, being lowballed, basically being used for extraction.
Yeah.
Monique has been grinding since the 90s.
Yep.
And she has made like over 50 awards over her time. And some young little European chick can walk in and get offered $11 million and walk away with $13 million. And then they offer someone at Monique's caliber basically crumbs.
Yep.
And we just sit around and get the slave mentality like, it's okay. You supposed to snatch them crumbs up and take it because that's all we've been getting this whole time. My thing is that I understand why we think the way that we do, but at some point, when can you just, if you know you weak, well, I ain't even gonna use the word weak because I think that's mean. But if you know that you don't have that fight in you, why don't you just shut up? I was listening to a YouTuber that I listen to. She's pro-black or whatever. Not gonna call her name, but she was just. It kind of shocked me because she was like, "I'm not standing for Monique."
Oh, you can call her. Call her. Let me. Hold on. Call her. Call her. This is a place to name names. Yeah. Name a name.
I mean, because I really do like her.
I want a name. I want her name.
It was the chick China.
Okay.
Yeah, but she was saying that she don't support Monique. She don't trust Monique. She don't trust her husband. And to me, that's very adolescent. You don't trust nobody. You trust what you do. But aside from that, but she was saying that she's not going to cancel her Netflix account. And I know she probably was making a joke. But she said she wasn't going to cancel her Netflix account because she wanted to finish watching Greenleaf. Now, understand, you want to support Oprah, but you don't want to support Monique. That logic makes no sense. And I'm in the space to where if I'm talking to someone and you still ride or die for people like Oprah, Obama, to me that's a sign that you don't know what's going on. See, right now, I know you don't like this word, but Yvette, but I'm gonna say it. Right now, we need to take advantage of the fact that this is coon season. We plucking them out, and that's just what it is. But that's all I got for you, baby.
I appreciate you, brother. I appreciate that. Yeah, like because here's the thing, and I'm not trying. I didn't ask that brother the name names to speak bad of nobody. But what I'm saying is that even if you were not going to cancel your Netflix account, since when is it okay as a black person to come out forefront in favor of Netflix, but in opposition to this black woman who is trying to get what she's owed? How is that okay? And let me tell you something crazy. The same people who will disagree with me about standing up for Monique next week will be the same women coming to my page and saying, Yvette don't never stand up for black women. You are a disabled, dysfunctionally, mentally person, because you don't understand. This is what I am doing. Octavia Spencer, Wanda Sykes, all of them said, you know what, we ain't getting paid right. She right about that. This is bigger than Monique. You have to be able to expand your horizon and see this has more to do than just Monique. This is about how we are valued. And more than how we are valued, the reason Monique ain't valued because her audience is just black people. And let me tell you, Monique was very careful not to say anything negative about the black male Chappelle and all the other ones who have had Netflix specials. She said that them men deserve their money. And some of y'all still came to me and were like, well, she was just hating on Chappelle. She specifically said he deserved it, but she wanted more too. She did not say she didn't hate on anybody. But see, you're too lazy to go and look at the video and make your own assessment. But here's what I will say. Someone said to me, and I said, Killing Me Softly to Dave Chappelle was great. I said that. But here's one thing I said that I stand on. Like I said before, you got to know when to stand on stuff. Somebody said, well, Dave Chappelle isn't begging anybody for anything. So, no, I don't know, actually. But, so what they were basically saying is that Dave Chappelle wasn't a troublemaker. I'm going to say something, and it's going to piss you off, and I don't care. Dave Chappelle ran away. When them white people got at when white capital got in Dave Chappelle, he ran away to a farm with his wife. And if Monique was married to a man other than a black man, y'all would have a problem too. But y'all don't have no problem with David Chappelle and his Filipino wife. I'm not going to say nothing. You heard that from me. I just know there's a double standard at play here. I don't have any problem with interracial marriage. As you see from my former calls, I don't have no problem with that. I have a problem with double standards. That's what I have a problem with. He ran away. You didn't hear from that man for 10 years. Whole lot of stuff happened in the black community while he was gone. He didn't come back. We would have benefited more if he had fought here and talked about this stuff and talked about what was happening in our community. But you want to hold him up in a way that you don't hold Monique up. I don't have a problem if the brother ran. I understand why he ran. White capital can get you. I'm not judging him. But I'm saying if Monique had ran away like he ran away, y'all would have had her head on the platter. You didn't hear? It was like 10 years before you heard from Dave Chappelle, really. Them people said he was on crack and said all kind of stuff. He pew, and got away and said, I'm just going to get away from him. How is that better? So I'm going to the next call. I'm going to 443. I'm coming to you. 443, what's your name? Where you calling from?
Hey, Yvette, this is Trey from Baltimore. How you doing tonight?
Pretty good. How about you?
I'm doing wonderful. This show is beautiful. I just gotta say that. Anyway, so I'm gonna make it quick. I basically what we're experiencing right now as a collective people is what Dr. Joyanne DeGruy says is pretty much post-traumatic stress syndrome. Post-traumatic slave syndrome. It just is what it is. It's just this necessary need to be defeatist and just in this. Specifically for this idea of security.
Yeah, I agree with you.
Hello? Yeah. And what else? Another thing I wanted to touch on, like, it's so important. Like you touched on this. It's just we have to look for the dog whistles that these people bring in, the duplicity of these people that say they're on your side. But then they'll say, "Oh, they're hard working. That's why they deserve whatever that they deserve over us, or they built this country."
And hold on, caller.
That no one else will do.
Hold on, caller. When somebody says that they deserve this because they're hard working, what is the suggestion embedded in that comment about who we are?
Exactly, and that's what we miss. We just think like, oh, they're just, they are hardworking. Like they do a lot of things because of the media outlets that we have, and we just don't see it as a con. Like they're saying, like, yo, we're a lot better than these Negroes over here. We're not gonna say nothing. We're really trying to get in here. Just give us a shot. And we just don't see it. We just see it as them was just saying, like, they just like us. They work hard too. When they really just trying to overshadow us, really. Oh my God!
You're right.
And just just one last thing. I just want to say, like, about what Dr. Edward Baptiste said about the commodities, the derivatives, the financial products that were made off of our ancestors. I wonder now whether or not if this financial ability was available to short the bonds on slaves, and I wonder whether or not there are any abolitionists whose sole priority for the abolition of slaves were to make sure that they got a financial cut or a piece in the collapse of slavery. That's all I want to say. Thank you so much for everything that you do.
Thank you. And I agree with what that brother just said. One thing I want to add, I'm watching the chat too, and somebody said Chappelle was funny and clever. I agree. I have mentioned like my most favorite comic stand-up from him. You have to understand that criticism for a person isn't tearing them down necessarily. But one of the things that I understand about Chappelle, even as I enjoyed his stand-up, although I wasn't necessarily a fan of the show really, one of the things that I understand about his stand-up that a lot of people, and I've said this before, but I'll say it again because it seems to go without, people don't seem to understand it. Chappelle's comedy is just as much white as it is black. Let me say that again. Chappelle's comedy is just as much white as it is black. You cannot understand Dave Chappelle unless you understand that his comedy is just as much white as it is black. Well, what do you mean by that, Yvette? Well, I said it before, but I'll say it again for those of you who were not here. Dave Chappelle grew up. I put up a chart the last time I was here that shows most white people have no black friends. Dave Chappelle was that one black friend in the group. He grew up, he said, he talks about in his stand-up, I don't know how many of you who are talking actually watched Dave Chappelle stand-up before on Netflix. And he talks about going over to that one white friend's house and they had stovetop stuffing and all that stuff. We talked about the last show about his best friend and the person who was his co-creator for the Chappelle show was a white guy. What white people, and the reason Dave Chappelle gets this money is because he speaks not only to black people but to white people, and white people know when they show up to his shows they're going to see themselves reflected in his comedy because he knows them just as well as he knows black people. That's what they know. And so Chappelle gets the money not because he's some type of, stop calling him the next Richard Pryor. That's not who he is in terms of his comedy. He's a guy who had a white best friend. And so when white people show up, just like we know he's going to say that joke about sprinkling a little bit of crack on a black person, he's going to bring in police brutality in a way that really hits home and police misconduct in a way that really hits home for black people. White people also know they're going to come and that he had white friends and white very good friends. They're going to see themselves reflected too. See, Chappelle's comedy is a comparative analysis. It's from a man who lived in both worlds and saw both worlds, right? And so that's what you have to understand his comedy. It's still very different from Monique's comedy, which is all black. That doesn't make it less than. It just makes it different. And I think people are trying to compare the two. Now understand that these are two very different forms of comedy. These are two very different forms of comedy. I was watching Issa Rae and I went to her Instagram page, and you know it was like after an award show, and she said, "You know what I am right now? You know what I am right now? I'm fucking drunk. And if you had not listened to, if I was not looking at her, I would thought that was some white girl wasted stuff. Like, you have to understand that this is different. This is very, 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 very different. And you have to be able to not necessarily call people out, but you have to be able to see how Monique's comedy is just black. It's culturally black, and it's all black, and how Dave Chappelle's comedy is not black. Doesn't make his comedy less than. Part of what makes his comedy important, and part of what makes it so American, is it's black and white. It doesn't mean one's better, but it does mean one person has a group of people who have money, because they got white people, And another group of people, Monique got a bunch of people who are black who probably don't have a lot. That makes them different. And you have to understand that. Now, I'm going to go to another call. 310. 310. I'm coming to you. Coming to you now.
Hey, what up, y'all? This phone call had to jump up in here. Love this that you got your stuff back together so we can do a great show today.
Thanks, Antonio.
It's just two things. I just want to jump in here on two things. First thing is the last caller. They didn't need to short. When you talk about abolitionists and shorting, there was no need to short anything. I don't think we really have been taught slavery correctly. I did a piece called Slavery's Shadow and the Cost to Build a Nation. You can go Google that. But you have to understand that the banks were in the north. You have to understand that all the ports to get the cotton out was in the north. You have to understand that all the clothes for the slaves was made in the north. The lie that's been told is that this was a southern institution. The southern people just ran the institution for the nation. That's the first thing I'm going to say to you. Second thing, more importantly, is what I think we're kind of also seeing, Yvette, is that quirky black people have run amok. What do I mean? People like Issa Rae because they grew up like her. That ain't black folks. You know, we got a lot of like quirky blacks are overrepresented in college. They overrepresented at ESPN. They overrepresented everywhere, and they run it amok and they tell white folks about black people in all the wrong way. They don't know about black folks. You know, white people like Chappelle because he was quirky. Black folks came around like late. He wasn't like Martin or nothing like that. Black folks came around because he got smashed in our face with that Comedy Central stuff. His comedy where he got the, I come back to, you know, I don't know if you got that picture with the dude with the beanie. You know, they got a skit where he's defecating on the ground. Nobody wants to see their uncle defecating on the ground. That wasn't our comedy.
No.
This is an outrage that people think that was like what made us. So I come back to the same thing with Issa Rae. It's like a reflection of what black women that ain't been around black women like that think black women are like. That's not like Monique's comedy.
No.
And you can disagree with me, but I just know because I've been around UCLA blacks. They be on some other shit. Some old, them blacks over there, I don't really mess with those. Our city was developed on that. That's why we got a beacon in the hill like Ladera Heights. It was my job trying to uncover that professionals in LA said they no longer want to live with the rest of the ghetto, so they moved into the hills in Ladera. And now we got a show about that, saying that this is what LA is about. And I'm just saying to you, that's what you see with Monique, is that quirky black people don't want to see her because she's just too black.
No. And thank you, Tone. I appreciate you calling in. But not only do quirky black people not want to see her, we don't believe that's who we are anymore. We don't believe that's who we are anymore. You know, we think we have outgrown like Monique, and like being this other thing is going to make us so more successful. So if I act like Issa Rae and find her comedy funnier, like I just want to look at Monique and laugh at her in the dark. I don't want nobody to see me laughing because that's not a respectable kind of comedy. Somebody told me she has a potty mouth. Yeah, so does your auntie. Wash your grandmama mouth out too while you at it. Like how many of us see a comedian who doesn't use expletives? Like the standard that she's held to is just so strange to me. And for black women, like black men, I talked about y'all the last time because y'all were on some Monique's big and she been lost a bunch of weight. But see, y'all don't like the fact that Monique lost weight and she's still big bone. Like I don't know what we into right now. But black women, like as sisters, y'all should be ashamed of yourselves on social media talking this trash. And a lot of y'all talk this trash. If you want me to say it, a lot of y'all talk this trash on black men's pages hoping they'll like you more. I'm not like that. Yeah, you is. Stop hush. You at least gonna laugh at it. You ain't Issa Rae. You know what I am right now? I'm fucked up. Nobody talk like that. When the last time you hung out with somebody talk like that? You think this quirky weird stuff is going? Man, if y'all, I'm going to the next call. 912, I'm coming to you. 912, what's your name? Where you calling from?
Hello, Miss Yvette. My
Hey.
name is Maurice, and I'm calling you from Savannah, Georgia. How are you doing?
I'm doing pretty good.
That's good to hear. I want to kind of expand on what some of the previous callers said. The one from Detroit, his name was Nate. He
mentioned how the Monique situation was a reflection of black people. And the other guy who called from Baltimore, he mentioned post-traumatic stress disorder. And what I wanted to like kind of link those by saying that how I seen black men and black women alike reacting to Monique, I said that is a reflection of the type of way we look at ourselves, the self-hate, the self-confusion, not knowing who we really are, not knowing our real worth. And I got to say, as a black man, you know, I go to an HBCU, Savannah State University.
Okay.
I'm around black people. I love black people. I want to see black people grow, etc. But I say, man, when I look at black men like voice walkers, I'll call them out, the voice walkers, the Charlemagne the God, and I say, man, they'll use their big platform. I'm looking on my Facebook account, and I'm seeing black men, black women attacking this woman, and I'm like, yo, how do we look at ourselves? Like, and it discouraged me to be like, Maurice, why do you have so much passion? Like, I look at you, Yvette, every week. I'm like, man, she got so much passion that I'm sure she come off as, people be like, yo, she's angry, she's bitter. My girlfriend's like, why is she always yelling? And I'm like, no, she's very passionate, you know, and I just want to give you words of encouragement, like, you know, don't get discouraged to keep fighting the fight,
Thank you.
know, but I can tell you, me, myself, I just be like, man, this is too much. Like, look at where, no, I'm not going to say y'all, I'm going to say, look at where we as a people are. Look at how we view ourselves. Is this really post-traumatic stress disorder? Is there even really a recovery to this? Is there a way to, is the damage done?
I don't know, brother. I mean, I honestly don't know if the damage is done. I want to thank you for the call, but I honestly don't know. I mean, you know, James Baldwin talked about how to be black in America is to be in a constant state of rage. And then and he talked about how to kind of quash that down and try to live too at the same time. But then you have black people who ask, well, why are you angry? And so you have to ask, why don't you understand because to not be angry means you don't understand what it means to be black. And you don't understand what has happened, and you don't understand what is coming. And then I have to question, even though I want collectivity, I want a collectiveness amongst black people, I have to question what benefit you have in my life. And I live by the rules that I teach. On this show, I don't just say stuff and walk away. Like this year in my own life, I won't get into it. But this past, if we're in 2018, 2017, and even right now, I had a conversation earlier. This has been the year of the purge for me. I've been cutting people off left and right. Just gone. Because I can't ask you all to live by a standard. Because part of what having a tribe means, see, we think as African Americans having a tribe means that we just include everybody. No, the key to having a tribe that is functional is not just inclusion, it's exclusion. It's the ability to see people who cannot, for right now, I'm not saying you cannot be redeemed at some later time, but who do not and cannot fit. You are not worthy. And we are so used to just accepting whatever shows up on our doorstep that we take it and we keep it and we try to nurse it back to health. No more. I don't have no more cat food. You're going to have to go somewhere down the street. No more. This is a tribe of strength. You understand? So I have been kind of there myself. And I understand exactly what the caller's saying. Like, why she yelling? Why ain't you yelling? Ain't you mad? Like, don't you see what's happening? Why are you so calm? A storm's about to come. What's that game of the winter's coming? 779, I'm coming to you. 779, what's your name? Where you calling from? What's going on?
This is Corey from Chicago, Illinois.
What's going on, Corey?
I was just saying, I agree with everything you say tonight. I just think Monique is the wrong platform to be using to go.
She's not a platform. She's a person, though. She's not a platform.
Yeah, she's a person, and if you believe in capitalism, her stock is just as not high as Dave Chappelle and Chris Rock right now. But did she say it had to be the same? Like in negotiating for more, did she say it was supposed to be the same? On Sway, she said she
would, in the perfect world, she would like them to offer her $20 million like them.
I would too. Why wouldn't she? But why wouldn't she fight for that?
So you're saying you think she should get paid the same as Dave Chappelle?
I'm saying she should ask for it. I'm saying, listen, I'm saying 500,000, 3 million, all of them offers are too low. That's what I'm saying. And I'm saying that, like, if I were her, I'd be like, oh, hell no. That's what I'm saying. I'm saying that I would use my leverage, which is black people, to try to use that, because all we got is black people, other black people. Stop talking like you got some kind of negotiating power. All you have is other black. I would use that to try to leverage that to get more money. I would. Because they owe that.
And one more thing, please.
Sure, go ahead.
And about that, you know, Issa Rae is not real black. We shouldn't put people like, if we don't act like this, we're not real black. Or if we speak a different kind of way, doesn't mean it all depends on how you raise. So we're all black, can be different forms of black. It doesn't have to be a Monique former black or a Dave Chappelle former black. That's all I have.
No, but hold on, caller. Who said that Dave Chappelle wasn't black?
Well, you're like, oh, that's a different kind. He has white friends.
No. But no. Wait a minute. I said his comedy is just as much black as he is white. Are you saying that that's not true? I didn't say he wasn't black. I say his comedy incorporates white people based on white friends that he has. I didn't say he wasn't black.
Okay. Well, that means he appeals to a broader audience, meaning that his money would be more.
Yeah, I said that the reason he's getting paid more is because he can put white people in seats because he has white friends. Do you disagree?
I agree. Is that right? Should black people get paid if they can only bring black people to the
what that tells you is that what black people are worth in this country. Because if you can only bring black people to the seats, if you're a Monique and if you're talking to black people about black people, ain't nobody gonna pay you because they decide that black people ain't worth shit. So that's what I'm saying. Nobody, and the thing that I'm saying about Issa Rae, understand that the middle black family in Los Angeles is worth $200. What I'm saying is that Issa Rae is not representative of black people in Los Angeles based on the life that she is projecting through her show. That's not me talking about what it means to be black. That's the data telling you about the wealth position of of black people in juxtaposed in comparison to what Issa Rae is trying to present to you. And I'm telling you that that's a lie in terms of what black people are really worth. That's just the data. That's not me saying anything. She black, but that doesn't mean she's representative of anybody in Los Angeles who is also black.
Okay, I get what you're coming from. I agree. I am a fan of yours, and I agree with you on a lot of things. It's just this Monique thing. I just think she's trying to use people. She's asking us to boycott a website for her to get more money.
She's not asking you to boycott just to get more money. She's asking for parity in terms of pay. She's saying that I'm not getting paid what I'm owed. Boycott Netflix, and whether or not you do that, you should understand that that she really isn't I could understand if Monique got offered like $8 million or $10 million, and she said and then I would be like, I still would support her advocating for more. I still would support her advocating for 19, but I think I could maybe understand a little bit more where you're coming from if that was the case. But that's not the case. And what they're basically telling her is like, your years in comedy mean nothing. Your Oscar means nothing. Your base of support, which is African Americans who don't really have money in this country and come from slaves, mean nothing. What they're really saying is that you as a black woman don't mean nothing. And so that's where I come into it. Now, if she was quirky and weird and she tried to present this image, which isn't true, that like black people have all this money, I think she would get paid. And so I think that's what I'm talking to. Because let me just say one thing. In terms of African Americans in this country, not in terms of just Caribbeans or whatever. In terms of African Americans in this country, we love to say, well, we're not monolithic. You a lie. There's one area where descendants of slaves in this country are very monolithic, and that's economically. Now, we're not monolithic. You might like robots. You might have 10 dogs. You might be vegan. But one of the places where we are monolithic is if you look at our bank accounts. That's where most of us are monolithic in terms of what we have in that account. And what I'm telling you is that Issa Rae is not representative of us and our economic position. And that's the most important thing in terms of who we are in this country. So I don't care whether you like comic books. I don't care whether you play with squirrels at night. I don't care what your interests are. That's not the most important thing in terms of who you are as an African American descendant of slaves. You understand what I'm saying?
Yes, you're saying that the majority of black people don't live the lifestyle as Issa Rae. So I get what you're saying. I was just saying that we can connect. We don't have to, Monique has like the slang of, the typical how they portray black women, loud, and her comedy is all that. But I'm just saying that we don't have to live up to that portrayal. We can be.
It's not even a portrayal. Like, why are you ashamed of that? Like, why are you ashamed of a black woman who's loud? Like, that's, why are you ashamed of? I don't understand why we are so ashamed of that. It's funny how Monique went from queens of comedy, where she was the funniest comedian in the world, to all of a sudden, like, that ain't me. Is that you? I don't know nobody like that. Did you know anybody? I don't know nobody like that. Like, how do we go from that to being ashamed of comedians like Monique? Nobody ever said you can't be who you want to be.
No, I'm not ashamed of her. I'm just saying there are different facets of black people. We don't have to cling to what blackness is. We're a color. I'm
not clinging to her. I'm just saying pay the woman.
Okay, I agree. I still love you. I love your show. I think you're doing a great job. Thank you.
All right, appreciate you. All right, let's see. Here's the thing. Black people are poor. I don't know how to put that. And so we have gotten this whole Black Panther bullshit. Like, we have gotten so caught up in this that we don't understand who we are. And the part of the thing that bothers me so much about this Issa Rae thing, because I understand what it is. This is a black character that is palatable to white people. She ain't palatable to you. Like, some of you say that, but like, point to me one black friend you have she's just like Issa Rae. I can point out every auntie, every cousin, every sister who is just like Monique. You don't. But so this is like, I can probably point out to you more white women who have a lot of stuff in common with Issa Rae than black women. And so this whole thing is kind of getting into a space where black people don't like another black person because you don't speak proper, and you speak more like Monique. These strivers are everywhere. I mean, I'm not going to say too much, but I'm going to go to the next caller because I know we don't have this is going to be, I'm going to take two more callers. 409, what's your name, where you calling from?
Hello, my name is Keisha. I'm from Galveston.
Hey!
I see your show is Slavery Built America.
Yes, ma'am.
No, that slavery still builds America.
Oh.
And so I look at my community and I see people who can't even buy bread, which used to be 25 cents way back on the Wayback Bus. Now they're paying $2.50. But their job is still paying a minimum wage.
Yeah.
It's like a cloud that black people ain't seeing this. Immigrants can come here. They can work hard, and they're stepping stones up into a new future for their family. But we are here, been here, work hard, and we get nothing for ourselves, for our families. And it's like people want to point fingers all over the place. Oh, it's Trump. Oh, no. It's Monique. It's all these people, but we don't look at ourselves and say, hey, wait a minute, what am I fighting for to make sure my future and my community is getting better?
What's my politics? Say it plain. Say it plain, sister. What's my politics?
They fought to get out of slavery, and here it is. We're marching in women's marches without anything. And I mean, it frustrates me, and I don't even know how to explain it to people, because they're like, oh, well, yeah, that xenophobic word. Okay, that word wouldn't even exist if we were all the same, you know?
Yeah, I mean, I hadn't heard the word xenophobia much before this year. Now it's everywhere. Now you cannot have a conversation about race without bringing xenophobia, without using the word xenophobia. You got to cover that base. It's crazy.
Just beginning your show here, you're talking about this man, Dr. Batiste, talking about slaves working harder, you know, to keep from being beat.
Yeah.
Okay, what is Black America doing not to get beat by the electric company, the grocery store, the payday loan stores, the liquor stores, the rent they're paying? I mean, come on now. I have a house. I'm a homeowner. I pay 1/3 of a renter in water bill and lights and just living in this house. And you don't sit there and say everything is okay. I mean, I have family members working 80 hours a week.
Yeah.
You know, just to have food in your house. It's something when you have to buy a space heater because you can't use your central air. You know what I mean?
I know.
And you live in an apartment.
Yeah, I you know, you said something that was very important, Colin. I don't even know if you understood how important what you said was. You said, "What are you doing now not to be beat?" And the only thing that you can do now not to be beat is to engage in black politics. I just got through text before I did the show. I was texting back and forth with somebody who told me, and that's why I say, who told me, well, Yvette, I said there is no space for a black person to be apolitical in this environment. That person told me, well, Yvette, this is your opinion. See, understand that when somebody says that to you, they are being they're being dismissive of the data. The data is very clear. The data is not opinionated. It is very clear about where this group came from and where this group of African Americans is headed. But you will not have read a political book or a political study in years and tell me that it's just my opinion. And so you don't understand what you just said, Carla, that you have to, what have you done to not be enslaved now? They don't understand that what you have to do is politics. And if you're not doing politics, you're not pushing the ball forward in terms of this community. And you're not protecting yourself either. But I'm sorry, Carl. I didn't take your time. Finish your thought. I'm sorry.
Look, the way I see it is on the line wasn't moved, the plantation was.
Ooh.
And so we're sitting up here saying, oh, we're better now, we're getting paid more now, but I have kinfolk in jail working for Walmart and Amazon. And so I'm not getting paid. You have to pay for their health care in jail. Pay for it. And I'm just like going, but then you earning 25 cents.
Yeah.
I mean, come on now. And then you can go to the outside. The Walmart worker who's making minimum wage just paying that bill in freaking jail, and then they can't put food on their table.
Yeah.
They can't get health care. They can't get nothing, but our ancestors were beat to the bone. And for what? And so we're going to sit here and say, oh, you know, we can all get along. No.
Yeah, you're right, though.
We got to fight every single day for everything we have. They just moved the plantation.
Oh, yeah, you're right,
Carl. White people, yeah, there are poor white people out there. But, you know, back in slavery, they had indentured servants who were able to buy their way out of that service.
And not only, let me just thank you, Carla. I'm going to let you go, but let me just say one other thing. I appreciate you, Carla. One of the other things about indentured servitude, not only were you able to buy your way out, once you got out, you look just like everybody else, and your family looked just like everybody else. So, I mean, look like the people who had money. So if you're white and you go through indentured servitude, once you leave, you're white with a bunch of other white people. You know, so nobody knows that you're a former indentured servant. When you walk into a room, people don't know whether or not you have money. When you walk into a room as an African American, people know what your heritage and what your lineage is. One of the most interesting things about me when I walk into a room as a light-skinned African American, one of the first things people try to find out about me, oh, which one of your parents is white? Well, neither one of them are, but I know why you're asking that question. I know why you want to figure that out. I have 2 black parents, but I know why you're trying to figure that out. You're trying to figure out, well, what's your lineage? Because this is the rise of lineages. Just like Antonio Moore says, this is the rise of legacy. So that's what you're trying to figure out. I know you ain't white. I see your hair. But so which one of your parents is white and what they do? You're trying to figure me out. See, we don't even understand this. We think people hate us or despise us because of skin color or hair texture. No, they despise you because they have something and you have nothing. And they don't want to take on a burden. And America made us into a financial burden by not making us whole, not paying us what we were owed. And we have never demanded that. We have these idiots who are running around talking about how we can do for self. And we need to purge our community of these people. Because I'm not saying that you can't do anything as an individual business person for yourself, but that is never a project for community uplift. And if you knew anything about history, you would know that this has been tried before, and the power of white supremacy always comes in and yanks it right back. You would know that if you knew enough, but you don't know enough to lead us. So what has to happen now is people like me and people like the Breaking Brown family come in and say, no. We are removing you from leadership position. I'm going to go to my last call, 617. I'm coming to you. What's your name? Where you calling from? What's your name? Where you calling from?
Yvette,
what's going on?
Boston. What's going on?
Not too much.
Hey, listen, that girl Camilla talking crazy. It really got me asking a question. Just because so many of these people have lost their mind. I was thinking to myself, do I have to go down to the border and help Donald Trump build this wall for you to respect my justice claim? Do I have to take it? It's like they really talking as if they built this.
Yeah.
And I really gotta salute. I really gotta salute the last caller because she really understands that.
Yeah.
The slavery never left, and Antonio was talking about it too. How slavery was in the North. These institutions are still here.
Yeah.
Whether we're talking about Bank of America, whether we're talking about J.P. Morgan Chase, they bought subsidiaries that were built off the backs of slaves. And I'm going to pick up that book that you talked about, that you were playing the clips from earlier.
Yeah, the half has never been told. Yeah.
Yeah, what I also found with doing some reading, not only was it, stocks and bonds, but you could also insure your slaves. Our ancestors' bodies literally built the insurance industry. Like Aetna's still here, one of the largest insurance providers. So you could literally buy life insurance on your slaves. You work your slave to death, get paid on that policy, then go buy another one and work that one to death.
Another wealth building tool for them.
Exactly, and then you can take those slaves, and then I can go to what J.P. Morgan Chase bought later. I can go to that bank and take out a loan against that slave and use that slave as collateral. Buy myself another slave. Double my labor without doing nothing. And if I default, the bank that J.P. Morgan bought, they actually own slaves. They had about 200 of them. When the slave owners defaulted, they're like, I'll take the slaves. So we have the banks literally owning the slaves. It literally built every facet of this country.
Every
facet. You need to understand, like, those institutions are still here. It has not gone anywhere. And it's just offensive, when they come in here and say it's built by dreamers, for dreamers. It was built by slaves for white capitalists. Yeah. And that's it.
That's it. Thank you, caller. I appreciate it. I appreciate it.
Love you, man.
Thank you. That was a caller. I appreciate. That was a powerful comment. All these ways, insurance, everything to make money. I'm going to you all know I work the Angela Project, Dr. Cosby, Louisville. I'm going back there soon, and we're going to be meeting the author of the Color of Law book. And what he says is that America owes descendants of slaves and in a sense that not people of color. And if you get a chance, please pick up The Color of Law and read that book. I brought it up before on this show, but please pick the book up. Please read the book. The book is so important in terms of, because the thing is, we have to have intellectual weapons. We have to weaponize what we know. And part of the problem is that we don't know enough to educate not only ourselves, but the people around us. And that's what we have to do, Breaking Brown family. And some people we're going to have to let go. But other people can be educated. And what I'm going to say as I end this show, I read a lot of stuff. And, you know, there was a poet, he did. John O'Donohue, I think was his name. And he said, we talk about the people, you know, and we talk about the people who have privilege in this country. And I want to leave you with this thought because it kind of stuck with me. He said the responsibility of the people who have privilege is the utmost integrity. So if you have privilege in a country or a space, your responsibility to everyone around you is integrity. And what I am telling everybody, from immigrants to the white people, you have failed in terms of your integrity. And this is, I'm telling the white church this too, you have failed in terms of your integrity. And I know that because I see your kids still at school calling black kids the N word. I know that because I see your kids, immigrants, saying that we work harder than these kids and we're more deserving and we're not like those kids. I know that you do not have the integrity, not because of just what you say, but because of what you do. Your actions speak for you. I know you don't have integrity because I see the policies that you fight for. Policies that will disadvantage me and my people. So you do not deserve any. Nobody really deserves that kind of privilege. But you do not deserve that privilege in this country because the responsibility of privilege is integrity. And you have no integrity. You have no moral value that you stand on, that you stand with, that would protect people who have less. Even though we should, by numbers, have more than everybody. You have failed us, and your failure is what we're living. And as African Americans, we have to, not necessarily, I'm not talking about necessarily separation, but we have to differentiate ourselves from other people in terms of our material needs and in terms of how we're going to have those needs met, how we're going to move forward in life to meet the needs that we need to meet. We have to define our tribe specifically, first of all, as African Americans, then turn around and see which African Americans can be a part of this tribe that we have. So I'm going to leave you with that. I'm going to leave you with that last word, ladies and gentlemen. Tonight, I will be back because this is Tuesday. Tomorrow's still Wednesday. So tomorrow's still Wednesday. Tomorrow still means a show on Wednesday, even though I didn't get to do a show on Monday. So tomorrow night we will have a show. And if you all want to support what we're doing here, you can go to breakingbrown.com. You can make a cyclical donation once a month. You can make a one-time donation. You can subscribe to the newsletter at breakingbrown.com too. That's $2 a month. You can also go to donatebrown.com and make a one-time donation. Please please subscribe, please share with your groups. You go to Patreon, also patreon.com/ycarnell, and you can actually make a donation there as well. So lots of ways to support what's happening here. I appreciate it. I appreciate all of you for showing up for a night with your libations, which is not our usual night. I will be back tomorrow on the usual night, 9:15 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Appreciate y'all. Love you. We'll talk to you soon. All right.